Greetings, boys and girls, lads and lassies, and welcome back to Wednesday Night Movies. And tonight, it's Jim's recommendation, The 13th Warrior. So, guys, did you all manage to watch it today, yesterday, whenever?
Oh, I watched it plenty of times.
Yeah.
It's a really good one.
I thought it was okay. I remember seeing it, and I have seen it before. I don't know. It's just something about Banderas. I like him in these when he did the Western types. I think he suits that a bit better.
Yep, he definitely had good charisma for that, and he definitely felt like he belonged with like Salma Hayek at his side.
But I don't know. It's a good movie, but I know why I watched it once and then I forgot about it. But still enjoyable to watch the fight sequences and stuff like that. It's still a fun movie to watch.
Yeah, that was my whole thinking about it. It's a good film to just switch on and switch off, so to speak.
Yeah.
Guess I better not show you my page of notes then.
Oh no, that's fine. We're okay with pages of notes.
That's not that bad, actually. I must admit, there was one bit where I shouted and then had to take back my words because it's actually taken directly from Fahdlan. I didn't think it happened. I didn't think they did. Although, in fact, the actuality is somewhat is slightly more than they show in the film.
What was that?
The funeral. I was very glad that they didn't do. I've got one of my notes is, "Yay! No fire arrows." one of my pet hates. But that bit with the slave, my notes originally read in capitals. That's effing Sati, not the Vikings. And then I read up on it, and apparently no. Sorry, I'm showing you. Apparently no. That is actually taken from Ibn Fahdlan. But what they don't say in the film is that the young lady in question was a slave and was what's the polite way to put this?
First, before you jump into it too deep, there are no slaves in Viking cultures. They were serfs, which is the early format of feudalism. Yeah,
I appreciate that. But this is what he actually describes. And in fact, he was describing, probably he would have been describing the Rus, not the Vikings, the Norsemen who would move down into Russia. Because he was actually in the embassy to the king of the Bulgars, and he went over the river into what was then Russia, and that's when he met the Vikings. So he never went to Norway or anywhere. But what the actual description in Ibn Fahdlan is that they did this. Shall we say that the young lady was drugged? She entertained in a most intimate way every man in the camp. Not necessarily, but she was drugged. She wasn't necessarily capable of consent, and she was then strangled before she was put on the boat. So I'd actually, when I read that, I remembered I'd read that somewhere I couldn't, but I hadn't put it in context. But no, they didn't put a slave on the ship and then burn the she was dead when they set fire to the boat.
Yeah, I knew
they were already dead, all of them. That was the custom. They were dead by the time the boat was burning.
But I must admit, I mean, my first reaction I say was no, that's not was the Viking practice at all. But Jim, you obviously you obviously like to be a lot more up to date on that period and that culture than me. I'd always associated Viking burials with just the person concerned. The slaves were more an Egyptian thing.
It's definitely not on the level of, shall we say, the Egyptians.
Yeah.
But yes, sometimes Serbs. It is a very difficult area because it's very grey. It's basically what Vikings did before Great Britain started forming properly, which is one of the first places where feudalism started to form.
Yeah.
It
was a Norman idea.
Yeah, technically slaves, if you want to be ignorant around it, but it was more a serf, a peasant belonging to the land, not the lord. So the lord couldn't just do what they wanted with the people on the land.
Yeah,
he had a responsibility.
There was the technical difference, I think, is at the risk of getting A, about 200 years ahead of ourselves, and B, off track. The technical difference, I believe, the phrase of a free serf and unfree serf. And an unfree serf didn't mean you were a slave, it meant you were tied to the land. You couldn't move. It didn't mean you were a slave in the classic sense that...
Prisoners with jobs.
Prisoners with jobs, that's probably the correct YouTube term for it.
Roman, that's Commander Adama, an original classic figure. It's not Ash. So, what do you reckon about that one? Is there any good Beowulf film adaptations?
It's tricky because it's a saga, and the saga tends to span too much that a film can't really cover.
Yeah, I know, but usually, even with the saga, they usually pick a part of it.
Which doesn't help because there's usually more complexities to all the natures. Even a lowly character in the saga tends to have more behind them and more in front of them than just what Hollywood can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll bring him out.
That's a nice looking one.
It's a nice wee figure. So I decided instead of him sitting on a shelf, I thought have him on the mic. So I've got Galactica's boss sitting there guiding.
I don't dare hang anything on my microphone because it's literally wobbling towards me because the foundation it's standing on, it's not heavy enough because it's really heavy.
I bracketed mine to my desk. So that's...
Yeah, I need to bolt mine to the floor, I think.
Mine's just clamped, but yeah. I mean, if you wish to go slightly ahead and combine the two, you could say you've got Galactica Actual on your mic.
Yeah,
that was the call sign they actually used, with an appropriate call sign in the remake, but we won't go there.
The actual part is a Navy term used widely, but anyway, we're digressing a little bit. So it's probably be a good squirrel mission.
Yeah. So, what did you think of the setting, as in the start off, and how they set it into the Norse story? Obviously, how he was sent because of a lady not liking him.
No, the lady did like him. That was the problem.
Sorry, liking him, and the prince not liking it. Lorne Green is definitely the best Adama, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that's Battlestar Actual when you respond to comms, but I can probably shoot you off a little bit there because the Fahdlan character is a real historical person. But he was more, self-learned individual, and he was really keen on exploring the world. So he didn't just go to the Vikings and the Norsemen. He explored different areas for an interest of diplomacy and everything. And mind you, this is when the Arabic, shall we say, continent was at the top of the game. They had the best mathematicians, the best architecture, the best scientists, the whole shebang. They were literally the best of the best.
The Islamic golden age, so to speak.
But it is before it started to get a good grasp of it, because there was still the Arabic nations and the Islamic and all that warring and fighting it out on who is the best one.
Well, his apparent dates for roughly 879 to 960. Interestingly, he died about approximately the same year that Leif Erikson was born. Because I thought I'd remember that, and some of the things I thought they were. I misremembered the story of them, and I thought they were going to be going over to America with the Skraelings because there's something. Because getting ahead a little bit, but there are some bits of the symbology of the eaters definitely looked a little bit North American Indian in influence to me, but I suppose, to be quite honest, it's not entirely surprising. It's what you've got. Hey, Wend, it's what you've actually got available, so it's not entirely surprising. But no, it was. They gave him a promotion. He apparently went as secretary to the. I've lost it here. He apparently went as secretary to the ambassador to the king of the Bulgars in 921. So you're talking early 10th.
Yeah, and in this one, they've made him the ambassador.
Yeah. In which case, why the hell is an ambassador going off on a bloody 13-man? Yeah.
There was bits and pieces of this that sort of put me to the point of, it's a wee bit silly, and that was one of them. The fact is, they're looking for someone who's not an Norseman, and everybody's looking at them as if to say, "Who, me? I'm a guest here. Sorry, don't include me. You can take him because he can speak your language, but no me." But it was a case of, yeah, okay then. Really, it just seemed a bit weird. And also, the thing that I found a bit weird was, they had to give him a sword, which obviously couldn't use. And then they spent less than a day, to effectively create a new one.
You mean he should have had a montage?
No, it's either he should have actually, I would have assumed, because even though he was on a caravan and stuff like that, he would have had a personal weapon, not just a dagger, which he had. He would have had a sword with him, because his rank, he would have had even.
I would have thought he would have had a classic
scimitar.
Yeah, scimitar. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
That's what I was thinking as well, but he didn't, and they had to give him a straight sword, and he didn't know how to use it. And he didn't know how to use it ridiculously, even though he would be used to a curved sword.
Yeah. And then they gave him a backstab.
That.
God, don't get me started. I've got notes here about the armor.
Oh God, the armor just basically rattled me, and I'm sitting there thinking, "Oh, he looks like he's from Spain. He looks like he's an Arthurian knight. He looks like," and that's all I was looking at. The armor just didn't look right. Then you had the guy with a hat, and it's sort of a big.
Oh yeah, that hat's done. Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, really, right? Fair enough, they might have taken it off people who they had fought, but you're sitting there, really? He looks like he's got Arthurian knight armor on, and you're sitting there thinking, doesn't look right.
One of my clients is quite to me, what's a conquistador doing in the 10th century?
Yeah,
because one of those guys looked like Elizabethan.
That's the one I was thinking. I was saying Spain, but a conquistador, which was a Spanish conquistador.
Yeah.
So that's the one I was thinking about. He's sitting there and he's got the hair, he's got the helmet on, and and I'm sitting there thinking,
the breastplate was definitely
that's Spain, and I was sitting there thinking that, and the different armor, and it's a case of no, it doesn't quite look right. They tried to give it the ragtag, as in they would pick what armor was theirs, However,
No, I will interject a little bit there. Clearly, this is a trade hub that he's arriving at, where he gets hijacked into this whole bigger quest. You have Vikings that clearly have been, because there is, you say Arthurian, I'm thinking this is typical depiction of soldiers around the era where, Northumbria was being invaded and raided by Vikings literally on a daily basis. It's highly likely that he either traded or got that armor. The other armors, and keep calm here, Colin. The other armors obviously comes from different areas. So have you ever seen a map of where the Vikings really raided? It's literally all the coastlines around Europe, all the way down to Italy.
That's all the Vikings went. Vatican, isn't they? Yeah.
So they would have had the opportunity to get it. That's why it's very ragtag.
Oh,
but my biggest gripe is there is armor there that wasn't even invented until 400 years after the Viking civilization.
It's like conquistador armor. We knew they had around Spain, but the armor it was on, it was a case of right. They've done Spain, they've done Britain. Right, get British armor, Spanish armor, and you're sitting there thinking, really?
The breastplate that I forget the character's name.
Was that the same guy? It was in he played the Mountain or something like that in Game of Thrones.
Not sure, but the guy that was the guy that was the leader of the pack.
Oh, him? No, I know.
He's like
Wolfgar.
Wolfgar.
It's Wolfgar is the character. I keep forgetting.
Wolfgar is the king's
in a lot.
The guy with the big plate. I mean, for example, those little bits he's got on his shoulders.
Yeah, the basically for stopping things.
Exactly. They are for being hit by a lance at a joust. So that's 15th bloody century, not 9th, not 10th.
Uh-huh.
That's about 400-500 years to
Slight correction. Technically, the Viking culture ended in the 9th century.
Well, this is set in the 10th, isn't it? This is set. No, honest.
Supposedly set in the 10th, but
yeah. Well, it depends. I mean, Harold Hardrada was a Viking king, and because he led the last Viking invasion of Britain in 1066. So. But then again, I think
this is where the timeline gets fuzzy. Essentially, the Viking culture had started falling out at about 950, 940-ish. So they weren't like heathens or pagans, shall we say, in terms of Christianity.
Yeah, they were becoming Christianized, definitely.
Yeah. But...
I
think that even Hollywood, when this film was made, would not. Even the Vikings TV show that came out on the History Channel, they would not have done a proper Viking battlefield where you had the berserkers, which is jacked up on hallucinogenic mushrooms, naked and running with just battle axe across the battlefield.
I saw one theory that it was they thought it might have been ergo, the rots that you get on corn or maize, which also has been suggested as a reason for the Salem witch hysteria. The other thing that got me, Jim, was that okay, hold a second. The other definition I've heard of for berserkers was bear skin, was wearing bear skin, which of course the monsters were doing, not the Vikings. But I thought that's an interesting one because I've heard somewhere that another derivation for berserker may have been wearing bear skin or had something to do with bear skin, you know, as in the animal. Okay. But
I've read similar material around it and that they struggle with it, but the most common thing I find by scholars and like historians that really try to study this, the berserker was basically cracked up on drugs, out of their mind, butt naked, covered in blood, running across the battlefield, just basically.
Yeah, the one I heard was that they got it possibly from actually they chewed that they got that worked up. They were chewing and they were chewing their shields because of course the shields were wood, and that may have been again how whatever it was that someone got in their thing. But I suppose the fact is none of us were there, so it's all theory now, isn't it? On what we think.
See, the thing is, as well, when you're saying that there was the derivative of bearskin, and I always understood it was bearskin as in bearskin, because they were stripped bollock naked and running across the battlefield nuts. So, and I
can't
think
remember I saw that.
But I think that's where it's come from. It was a case of they would run across bearskin, and then people assumed that it was bearskin rather than bear-skinned.
Yeah, I still remember. I honestly can't remember where I saw that. It was only quite recently, I think.
Yeah.
I had to Google it, I have to admit. But bear, yes, close to burr. But I believe the actual Viking word for it is draugr, for a bear.
Really? I didn't know that.
Probably where we got jogger from then.
Draugr in Draugr. That's interesting because that's a word used for monsters in some computer games.
Well, have you actually seen a real life-size bear?
Yeah,
I've seen one knocking down the tree.
I've seen one on TV standing next to someone. There's like,
yeah. No, I'm just saying. I hadn't realised that the Draugr was a real word. I've only come across it playing things like
Skyrim.
Skyrim, for example. Yeah, I think would Draugr are the undead. Aren't they? Yeah, they're the undead ones, and sometimes you get underwater ones as well.
Now that you actually mention it, I think Draugr is actually a fairly okay or applicable word in games like Skyrim, because these undeads are actually really strong. They hit you like a truck.
Yeah. Then again, Skyrim
which is what they would do.
Skyrim is very, very heavily Norse inspired, isn't it?
Yes.
The thing about the armor they're using here, I suppose we're really lucky that they didn't have horned helmets on.
Oh, that was so going to be my first line. There was
that's why I like the cheap image I got. So if I do this, it's supposed to look like a Viking.
Yeah,
but I know there were no horned helmets, but I kind of like the imagery, and you have to accept it because yes, I call myself Jim the Viking, but I consider myself to be on the constant quest to learn new things and all of that, which is to do the Viking. But Vikings are coming. No. That's Norsemen are coming. Yeah. They are on the Viking.
Yeah. Well, you say that about the helmet. One thing that did strike me, one note I made regarding Antonio Banderas was pre-wrap turban, because he's at one point, I think in the early point, he had what seemed to be a turban with a loose, and other times he had literally what was I think it's a keffir is the one, which is literally
he was wearing. It was Omar Sharif had the turban.
Because there's one.
It feels.
But either way, either way, he picked this thing up and put it on his head. I'm thinking, hold on a second. No, if that's a turban, he would be wrapping it. I know the Sikhs do, as far as I know, I could be wrong, of course, because there is a difference between Sikh turbans and Islamic turbans. But when he puts the keffir on, all the keffir is, it's a bit of cloth. It's it is exactly the same as a veil that you see, a kerchief, a kuvushef veil that you will see women wear in the Middle Ages. It is a piece of material and it's held in place with those, different design of holding place, but that's all it is. So you couldn't pick it up by your hand like that because there's nothing solid to it.
It's basically like trying to put up your T-shirt from your floor and expecting it to hold the same shape. No, it would just crumble in your hand.
It's just loose material.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's what I'm saying. I think when he was, apart from the fact he was picking it up by the headband, as if that was a whole piece.
Yeah.
I suppose we were lucky it actually looked like one rather than actually was a set hat. But it was the fact that at least he didn't. It wasn't a turban he was putting on and off. It was.
Yeah, I'm thinking this might have been a completely logistical issue from the wardrobe department, because him taking it off and on again, and they had to keep rewrapping it and all that. So they just went like a little bit of instant power glue, and it's like, here you go, you can take it off and on. We don't care.
And in fact, if it had perhaps been designed as something of a way of armor, it may well have been. It may well have had a hat. I can imagine it having a leather or
solid structure underneath
it, and it's literally attached to that. So it is literally one piece. It's just, as far as I'm, the design, as far as I'm aware.
A battle kiffy.
Yeah. Hidden armor.
Yeah, but those were the first things when I was sitting there going, what was the armor? All the different armors they were wearing, and really, that's no. And it was, but I suppose they were just, I understood where they were going with it. I understood the object of it. It wasn't a case of all Vikings dress with fur and they wear armor, and if it's armor they've taken off somebody they've killed, they'll wear it because it's armor than theirs. I could understand.
The point of order there, Mr. Speaker, killed or traded, which I keep telling people.
But the fact is, they would wear the armor, so they wouldn't all look the same because of that. So I understood where they were going with it, but it just looked
it just looked like they'd not only been training, in time as well.
A lot of people from different armies, right? Everybody, right? You wear a Second World War outfit, you wear a German Second World War outfit, you wear a red coat and all that, right? You all look like different armies. Aye, but we're from different time frames as well. It doesn't quite work. It gave that impression, and that's what I was meaning. It was just weird.
That's one of the things that
that's what we're talking about. Cam 13th Warrior. Yep.
That's one of the things that I think filmmakers tend not necessarily. I mean, one of the things about that Scottish movie, that Mel Gibson movie, you know the one, is that at that period of time, the two armies would have been wearing the same sort of stuff.
Yeah,
they wouldn't have been that different in military kit because they were similar. You know, you would have throughout Europe at that time, or you may well have a difference between, say, the Muslim, Islamic, Arab gear and the Viking gear, because because they're designed to be worn in two completely different climates
and two different theatres of battle.
Yeah, for different types of battle. You know, up against different types of weapons in some ways.
Yeah,
but
you look at the 300. You had the Immortals against the Spartans. Two different armies from two different theatres meeting. They dress differently, and you would expect that.
Yeah.
So I was glad that they did do it to the point, and that they look so different. This one, it's like somebody says, right, we want to do one with Norsemen, but we want it to be like, I suppose, an American Indians. So we have to have a tribe attacking them, and you're sitting there thinking, the bears. I even thought that was a bit silly.
Yeah, I mean, one thing it got me towards the end was, okay, hold on a second. So I'm not quite sure exactly where that was supposed to be set. If they were supposed to have gone back to Scandinavia, or
that's what it looks like, because they were called back to their homeland.
Yeah, possibly. But I'm not, as far as I'm aware, Ibn Fahdlan never got that far. But you get to one point, and once they get called back, it then moves into entirely fiction fantasy, which is fair enough. Which is fair enough. But these guys have presumably lived in these villages, these towns, for hundreds of years, and they have no idea that there's an entire 1,000-strong tribe of guys that look like most of them should actually be in Darkest Africa, living just over the hill.
Yep. And they know about the Thunder Caves, the Thunder Mountains, and they're saying that nobody's ever went up there.
Yeah.
But they didn't even actually say things like we've sent people up there before and they never returned. It's a bad luck place or anything like that. Nothing like that was ever mentioned about the mountains. Was if they did, because people have gone up there and never come back, so it's known as it's seen as bad luck. Yeah. That old guy was talking about when he was a kid. Remember, he was talking about his father. He survived just with the scars, but his father used to tell him, and he was talking about the serpent coming down, which was as long as 100. Was it 100 longboats?
Yes, yeah.
And it was that. So basically, it's no new. So they must have been coming down at regular intervals, and yet nobody knew what they were.
But that's where the film is trying to step into the whole Beowulf mythology. There is like a monster out there. It's a big fire serpent. My biggest gripe with the bear cult, aside from the fact that there is this massive clan of people, vastly outnumbering the people in this little village, has been living there secretly or undetected for such a long time.
Yeah.
But another one is the bear clan, or whatever you want to call them. I think they actually have a name. They actually have proper uniforms for being cave dwellers and living in squalor. They have proper similar uniforms. They have well-trained horses. Well, you can't really train a horse in a cave.
Mountains, I know. And even the fact that they all had, there must have been no bears anywhere near that mountain.
Yeah.
Because they were all wearing
considering how many bears they must have slaughtered for all those uniforms.
Yeah. And the fact is, as well, was the bit when they attacked, they never found any, right? I could understand any ones where they've wiped out any of their dead, they would take away with them. But the bit when they attacked in the house, inside the longhouse, and they fought off, bits were getting cut off, which you saw getting cut off in landing. And not only did they take the bodies away with them, while they were still getting attacked, they took all the bits of bodies away with them. And you're sitting there thinking, they're just going into the mythology part of it for that first fight.
Yeah, and they're making it more mysterious. I've done fire drill trainings and everything, and holy crap, it's 70 kilo person, 140 pounds or whatever that would translate into American. You're not moving really fast, and you're definitely not climbing out through the roof carrying a 70 kilo person on your shoulder.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. The fact is, you saw him cutting that one's hand off, and you see it dropping, and it's gone. They're all gone. The bodies and everything. Well, they're actually in close combat. Really fun, that, isn't it?
But I think we're starting to get into the greater part of this film, the things that I really like, and we can begin at the end where these are clever people. None of them are really fools. Not even the enemy. Not even the Bear Clan.
Yeah,
they are clever. They're intelligent. They know strategy. They know how to cause chaos. They know how to inflict the most type of damage, most type of chaos on each other.
Yeah.
I would say I don't believe ever if we go for the reality option here, that 13 people have ever stood up to an army of that size and managed to defeat them.
There was the one with was it the Sikhs
Yes,
on the mountaintop? Basically, they lasted something like about, was it 3 weeks? There was 20 of them against thousands, and right up until they ran out of guns,
ammunition, food, and water. Yes,
and they got completely wiped.
So, yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is how they get completely wiped. I mean, they got. I thought it was good that they got to a point, and when I thought the siege bits, the Walkscliff bits, were okay. I thought when they actually said, "Okay, we're going to stop being an army. We're going to be the age. We're going to be a real, what the film shows was a team, 12-man, 30-man special forces group." That's when you do sort of get a small group come work. You know, when trying to be.
I mean, there is a reason Wolfgar is surrounded by these.
Yeah,
these guys.
The fact though that they're hiding, that they're trying to sneak through caves and the rest of it, and they're walking in the dark, and they're without being seen, and they're walking across the bridge, and the 13 of them each carrying a fucking lit torch.
Well, not 13, because 2 of them get killed in the first battle.
Okay.
Because remember, the guy tried to get the flame, and he gets speared and skewered.
Oh, right,
and then there was the other guy up firing arrows, and he fired at one of them, and the other one came behind him, and
yeah.
So, but even at that, you're still talking about 11.
Yeah.
Getting across, and it's not only the fact that they went across. So what they're saying is, after they went in, nobody else came across the bridge and saw the bodies, and then nobody came up or down for the whole time they were going down.
Yeah, there was some.
It's like, do you know what it's like? It's like when you're watching a modern one, and you see the guys get in with a gun and a torch, and then they hear something, then they go pointing the torch down, as if, because I'm not pointing it forward, nobody can see the light.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's things like that. It's a case of, woo.
I think the thing is, what they've done is they've gone into console mode. They clicked the cheat command so the enemy couldn't see them.
I think it's more logistics for the cameras, because if there is no light, the cameras can't really film anything.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
Which makes it tricky. So I'm very forgiving of scenarios like that. But yes, like you say, that the whole bunch of them are walking across that bridge in the cave, all wearing torches. Yeah. Someone would definitely have seen it.
Yeah. They kind of get them away across the bridge, because the way they got across the bridge the first time, one guy walks across in the bear outfit, stabs one in the arrow, and then they all rush across, and then they drag the guys out with Ron standing there as if he's still in guard. But he must have come in as well. Then they all lit the torches in it. But what I'm saying is, so nobody came across the bridge after that, once they went down, and nobody went up and down that thing. So they knew there was a thing. So they must have been seeing people. They saw people coming in and out, or at least getting in regularly enough to know. And it's that part of it. It's, you can understand why movies just go, don't worry about it, because if we have to worry about it, then the movie's going nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we did. I saw years ago now. We did a multi-period reenactment bash, and one of the groups there was Romans and Britons, and one of the displays that they did, very good, very great display, fun display, was they did this is what happens in the movies. This is what would really happen. You know, where you get the one guy charges and jumps the wall and kills all the Romans. Okay, reality, he gets up there and he gets stabbed as soon as he hits. You know, things like this. So as
soon as he pops his head above the parapet, it's basically gone.
So I mean, but there were, of course, you do have to make allowance for the fact that the films are supposed to be entertaining, and Yeah, I mean, I suppose in a great, it's like saying, yes, well, superhero movies, but people can't really fly. You know, we know that's for the sake of the story. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Cam comes up. I mean, the fight sequence, they were really well done. I'm a bit. I did notice one of my notes. Antonio Banderas, she's wearing a long sword in a back scabbard.
He was, because it was the scabbard he was given. If you remember right at the beginning, all he did was he used his sword in it. So it was a sword that it was too big for him, and he put it and it was in with a strap.
There's no way.
I don't like anything of the blacksmithing scene, shall we say? Because he gets a straight sword and he turns it in a scimitar, which is a curved sword. You don't do that with already formed and forged steel or iron.
What annoyed me was the fact is he was complete and utterly useless with a straight sword. Put a slight curve to it and he could with it, and you're sitting there thinking, and he couldn't do anything similar a wee bit. It's not a case of he would be a bit more clumsy because of it, but the sword is still straight in one axis, but it's just because it's got a slight curve in it. He can suddenly spin it round his hand as if, and you're sitting there thinking,
we might get admonished by Shadiversity, but I think the weight difference between a one-hander sword, which is what is given, and a scimitar is kind of the same. It's about 1.5.
Yeah, but as I'm saying, he's a one-handed sword and put a curve on it. Yeah, but it's the fact is, before that, you see him, he's trying to chop and he's spinning around and flopping all over the place. Then the next time he goes and cuts it, and you're sitting there thinking, really? A slight curve in a sword can make all that difference.
I would, and this is me having watched too much of Shadiversity, I would say probably the curved sword, because he was trained and brought up on how to use that. He's expecting the hitting point of the extended arm, so to speak, which is what the sword is. He's expecting the hit to come slightly later, so his muscle memory may have triggered it.
I would agree with that if he hit it. You see what I mean? Because he's still going down the same line.
He's not even
and
hitting.
If he hit it and it bounced because he wasn't expecting it to hit at that point. So he's been slightly off and it's bounced, but he's completely missing the wood. So the weight and all that would be similar. It's just they might used to be the cutting edge. So why would that throw his arm off where he couldn't even hit the wood? That's what I'm saying. It was a wee bit ridiculous for that.
I think it's, like you say, ridiculous, but it's probably for the comedic effect that is absolutely useless using Viking, shall we say, technology.
Yeah.
But give him a little bit of freedom to bring the stuff that he knows about. And he's suddenly almost on par. I don't think he would be able to defeat the short guy that has the duel, the intentional duel with that really big bodyguard. But we'll go into that because that's more part of the clever things that I like about the story.
Yeah, but basically, to me, that went nowhere.
Oh yeah, they completely dropped that plot line because after that,
it went nowhere because you were thinking after that what was going to happen, and it went nowhere. It basically, as soon as he killed that guy and the guy storms off and he says about how he's not he now puts doubt in his mind, and then nothing happens. You don't even see him again, and you're sitting there thinking, what was that point?
But
you're right. It feels there's something missing there. But
if
you take it from the film alone, it's essentially you get out of our way. We're here for a mission. We are going to defeat the Great Mother and all of that. You're just interfering. Stop interfering. Go away. Okay, we have to kill your big bodyguard. We will miss him this night at the feast. I see that, but I haven't read the original novel, Eaters of the
No,
Dead.
I haven't.
So I can't compare, but I have a feeling that storyline, that plot, had more to it, although it may not have had enough impact to bring into the film.
See, I think it looks like it's something that was cut.
Yeah, missing
Was
scenes.
literally there must have been a couple of, maybe it ran a bit long and they've said we need to cut 20 minutes out, get rid of everything with him. I bet you need this. Okay, keep those bits in, but the rest of it out. I would like to have seen what the original parts were.
Yeah.
If there was. But it's one of those things. It's a good idea. It'd be like taking a proper saga and then just cutting out the bit they want and then leaving all the bits that led up to it and led out of it and not answering it, just sort of taking that part with the part of the story you want and still having all the bits in and out that the rest of the saga would have. And it doesn't make any sense in the short story you're doing.
You mean the way modern TV shows do?
Yeah, so like modern TV shows do, yeah. But it's that to me was what that was like. It was almost a case of it's part of a bigger story. However, and you know what annoyed me as well? The fighting was good. The final fight I didn't like because was it Wilgriff? What was his name? Wiglif, the king's son. Was that the one we were talking about? I can't remember. The king. He's been poisoned. He's staggering. He can hardly walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can fight a battle and actually take two of them on at one time. It's sort of the staggering forward just sort of made it typical Hollywood. Look, I'm about to die, but suddenly I've got a new lease of life and and then I'll die. And it just seemed to be a bugger. Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I don't know. I mean, I know what you're saying, but you can make she's going out like that. He's been poisoned, and he goes out there and he expects to die, and he's face, and then the other guys start.
It's just him how he was walking forward.
Yeah.
And that's the point. He was so weak he could hardly even walk forward without stumbling and falling to his knees. Yeah, he was strong enough to actually swing the sword around, kill a couple of people, get hit in the back, and still keep going until he actually killed the guy. Then he sat down and died.
One hell of a rush with adrenaline. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It just if I could understand he was poisoned, maybe he was pale, but he was still going to give it a me, but not stumbling as if he was so weak and then come out forward. He could have still been poisoned, knowing he's dying, knowing he's probably not going to outlive the night, so he's going out there and he's going to die his way. It would have been better. He didn't need to be so weak, and that's the thing. But it's one of those things. It's a typical movie. You've got a good movie.
I think you're a little bit nitpicky there because I think that's
you know what I'm like. You know what I'm like,
exactly. But I think this is what shows the Viking attitude the most, or shall we say the Norseman, just to try and keep the term straight. It is, I choose to die on my own preferences. Yes, I can barely walk, but sure as hell, I'm not going to be killed by some random weirdo with a bear skin for a suit that lives in a cave. I'm not going to accept that.
Yeah, but the point is, if you're that weak you can't walk, let me see you lift a sword and actually swing it around for 2 or 3 minutes. If you're that weak you can't walk.
Oh, I've been doing what's called buffing, which is basically padded swords. And I did that in my youth when I was swimming, I was running, I was doing mountain biking, everything. So I had very good stamina. 5 minutes of wielding a foam padded bamboo stick and a shield, and you were just on your knees and just going,
yeah,
I can't do this anymore.
But if you come in Ural, you can hardly walk into the place and they hand you those. How long would you last? Even with your adrenaline pumping, and that's what I'm saying. I wish they hadn't made him look so weak walking forward. You can have him, you can see he's dying, but his resolution, he still comes out there to
Overacting.
fight. You didn't need to have him, right, you need to make him look weak, so when he actually succeeds, it's better.
Yes.
No, actually have him still, you can see it, he looks weak, because he looked, if he just walked out the way he did and just stood there ready, you could see he was pale, you see the makeup was really good. He looked as if he was actually about to drop dead. But
if I'm gonna be honest, I don't think they needed makeup because that actor always looks like he's dead tired.
no, but he looked pale as well. He literally looked pale, and he did look the part. But it was the stumbling part that just got me. As a case of really, but which is it shows that you can have a nitpick about movie. You know me, I've no said this is one of my favourite. It was entertaining, and that's what you want in a movie.
Yeah.
But you know me, I nitpick even my favourite movies.
Oh, God.
So I'm
going
going
to historical films. Yeah.
Nitpick's a nitpick. I'm okay with that. But the fun part of it is watching it and actually going, and still watching it to the end and actually thinking, aye, that was actually okay. I mean, if it got that nitpicky, like Wheel of Time, you stop the video after the first minute and just go, fuck it, then something's wrong. But if you can watch a movie right to the end and go, either that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. What did you think of it? It's actually quite good.
Yeah.
It's kind of my measuring stock. If I start swearing when I start my nitpicking, I know that it's absolute rubbish. Like the latest Star Trek or latest Star Wars or whatever it is, or Wheel of Time. It's like, you mustn't get bleep.
Exactly. I was 30 seconds into Wheel of Time and I stopped it because I had to swear. I swore for about 3 minutes just for the first 30 seconds. And I'm sitting there thinking,
didn't you even clear out your bookshelf behind you?
Yes, and all the books are actually now down at the charity shop. The only books I kept were the first 3.
I'm going back to it though.
It's basically went.
I got it. I mean, I thought what I thought was quite interesting was I noticed when they had those figurines.
I
mean, the interesting thing of that was that those are modelled on figurines which have been found, which are thousands of years old. Recommend supposed to be fertility because of the but I'm thinking
a lot of them are South American. Fertility symbols.
So that they come up when you get these. I'm thinking, hold on a second, wait, hold on a second. That's the mother.
Yes.
I've obviously been watching too many Starship Troopers movies, and I've obviously been playing Fallout New Vegas far too long, because when you say the mother, I'm expecting a big monster.
Yeah.
Now, not necessarily in this case, but I'm thinking, hold on a second. No, that's a young woman. If you want to go pagan, I'd say that's maiden. That's not mother.
So if she was a crone, an old crone.
Yeah, but if you got the old crone like they had, I mean, using that one for example, I was getting flashbacks to the Kirk Douglas movie, to the Viking, several times in this. When you've got for example, when they went to see the wise woman, it was literally the old queen. But I'm thinking, hold on a second. The mother, I would expect the mother to be a matriarchal figure, to be possibly, they're setting it up that she's going to be a big, but not to be
older
a young
and
woman
wiser is what you're looking for,
yeah,
basically.
not a young woman who may never have had a kid in her life.
You've always had 3.
Yeah.
The European idea of witches always came in 3.
Yeah.
The mother, the crone, and the virgin.
Yeah.
Even Terry Pratchett had it.
Nanny Hogg,
Nanny Weatherwax, Nanny Hogg, and Margaret Garlick.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. When he walked in there and it was the young girl, no, the mother.
No.
I would expect an older one. But even at that, having just the one. surely there would be her attendants, whatever. So they would be, the older one would be the mother, and then you would have
I mean, I could take her
the ones who would eventually take over when she died.
As the understudies, as a mother in wait, mother in training. Yeah, I can understand that. But
So
no, the whole concept,
one.
and the whole concept of that as a mother. No, that didn't fit for me.
It didn't fit for me either. But and also the fact is, you've got a battle-hardened warrior, and yes, he finally cut her head off, but it took his time, and she was managed to do it. So either A, she had to fight to get a position against her warriors, or they took a wee bit of poetic license for her jumping around. You know what I mean? Sitting in a cave, being hanged, and yet she's the one that she can jump around and slash him with the poison and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose you might sort of be able to read that, okay, he's a bit hesitant to attack a woman because what, but he's already been told he's got to kill them, but yeah, I mean, the whole thing is, why would she be such a good fighter? I mean, I'm not saying women can't be good fighters. I'm saying, why would the mother, who by all accounts seems to have been protected so far deep into the hive, if you like to put it that way, that they've had to go on an entire half-hour special mission. They spent a quarter of the film getting there. Why would she suddenly turn out to be capable of taking on a hardened Viking warrior?
Yeah, exactly. Even with the distraction of one of the guards coming in, shouldn't have been enough to actually make any difference.
Yeah, but I do recommend that you check out the Wikipedia page for the film, because the cast description, and I know this is supposedly apart from the book, but basically the 13 warriors are described as the 7 dwarfs from Snow White. The superstitious, the musician, the archer, the rider, the wise, the fat, the joyous.
Well, it's interesting that
but that's a typical saga. It would do that anyway. They would put things about them forward, wouldn't they? Yeah. As part of the saga, because it wouldn't just be so and so. It would be the magician, or the musician, the bard. That type of thing.
You look at something like, interesting enough, I'm on and off, I've been listening to set of lectures on the Odyssey and the Iliad, and you listen. If you listen to specifically more so with the ancient Greek, more than saga things, they do that, and you do that, and you get the same in. I would imagine it was going to be the same in something like Norse sagas, because they're designed to be spoken. They're not written. They're all tradition. So there's rote phrases in there. So, such and such will always, about 3 lines that describe Odysseus. You'll have the same 3 lines every time he says one, which is designed to let the poet think ahead. So, so you find that. So, yeah, exactly. You find exactly those characters, and they'll be on those characteristics. It's interesting again that occurred to me earlier on that 13, like 3, is a number which seems to have some sort of semi-mystic significance throughout history. You look how many we consider it to be an unlucky number. How many were at the Last Supper? 13, right? It's the number 13 seems to come up, possibly because it's the number of weeks in a quarter of a year. I'm not sure, but that depends on how you do weeks. But it's another one where the 13th seems to be.
Yeah, but see, remember, 13's only classed as unlucky since the hangman noose. because that's where it's unlucky for some, because you had 13 loops round for the hangman's noose, and that's where the unlucky came in. Before that, it wasn't always classed as unlucky. You look at different cultures. I've got
exactly. I'm saying, I mean, it's the unlucky bit is one aspect of it, but it's like threes. We said made by the credits. Lots of things seem to come in threes. 13 again. It seems to be a number which has a almost mystical significance. Not necessarily for good or evil, but has a significance. I mean, mystical may not be the right word even, but it seems to have a significance throughout history.
Definitely has. I was just thinking, Cam's part there about the water escape at the end. The one part I liked about the water escape is when he says, if they don't come after us, we know it's too far to swim. I thought was quite a good line before he jumped into the water.
I was sitting there waiting, and yes, they took off their bloody armor. Yet somehow, after the escape, Antonio Banderas finds his nice, expensive chain armor back.
Yep. I know. But it was the fact is I liked the line. The line was actually quite good because they'll come after us. Well, if they don't come after us, we know it's too far to swim. Of course they're going to come after us. It's a shame they didn't actually see some of them popping up behind them, and then they had to swim to shore, and then you can assume they fought them off when they came out of the water and they got away, rather than them just popping up and nobody following them.
So I've just had a really silly thought. Combined 2 days, they go through down, they swim past Thunderbird 4. Just thinking what we were watching last night. I just wonder why that looks so familiar.
That's what it was.
I wonder, there's Thunderbird 4 the other way.
That's probably how they got home. For those who weren't thinking, we were watching Thunderbird's Terror in New York, and Thunderbird 4 was underwater getting the swimmers out. And that was on the FFSI channel. Check it out. But I think the movie, all in all, was entertaining, and that's what you want in a movie. You can have good bits and bad bits in a movie, and if it all in all it comes across as entertaining, can't go wrong with it. The thing is, if they had all this woke crap in the movies just now, and if you watched it and it was still entertaining, people wouldn't care.
Oh God,
you go, this part are a bit cringy, but it was a good movie.
I was thinking that they're trying to make it these days. The biggest thing would be Antonio Banderas playing an Arab.
That would be bad.
But really cultural appropriation, you have it.
Jim,
I will say, because you did touch on the Thunderbirds and all that, there is another Viking film that I really enjoy. And it is more based on Beowulf, but it's called The Outlander. And it's got Michael Caviezel, however his name is pronounced. He's essentially a refugee from another planet. He crash lands on Earth. And he has to use his technology. But we're not talking like super smart phaser and whatnot. He literally has to play with what he has. So he has to scrap metal parts from his ship, which has stronger metal, so he can forge swords and more durable items. Because along with him came an alien that literally wiped out his planet. So it's a really well played one, and again, it has to show the resourcefulness of them. It's like, this is a far superior force. We need to fix things. We need to do things. We need to actually be clever. And I like it. It's got the good Nordic vibe around it. And it's just well played. It's overall well played, but I would put it literally on par with this film. this isn't the best film ever made, but I do love it because it has a little bit of that, yes, inaccuracy in armors and everything. And, well, the Outlander can be completely forgiven for them having armor that didn't exist in that time because it's an alien with superior space technology. But still, cleverness, dialogue, interactions between characters, all of them have a purpose to actually be on screen rather than just tick a box. We put this character on the screen, now we're done.
Yeah.
There's something I did note, Jim. You might be able to advise me on here. There's one bit that did stick out on me a little bit. Several times they're saying about they make the point of Odin has decided. I think they say. I think they go with your father has decided when you're going to die and all this sort of thing. In which case, made me think. Well, in that case, now that doesn't sound right, because if that's your belief system, why are you going to then try to make sure that you die in battle to go to Valhalla? Because if that's already decided, that's pointless. That seemed to me to be an odd idea. It didn't seem to match.
The concept of Valhalla is you live honorably.
Yeah.
And think of it as the... what can I best describe it as? The knight's code.
Yeah.
It's your duty to protect the weak, use your power to defeat the strong and the evil, the bullies, so to speak. Vikings have Norsemen have a very bad reputation for the Viking activities, but 99% of what they did was just trade commerce.
Yeah.
They did not always. Yes, they came armed, but it's because they hold valuable cargo.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just. I mean maybe again it may be the hollow perception that the all Viking. All Vikings want to die in a battle, but I mean I suppose it could possibly be the argument now. I suppose might be that Odin, the All-Father, decides when you're going to die, but you decide how. I suppose maybe that would that be.
That is it, and that's what he actually said in this: is why be scared? Because you could hide in a hole, you'll still die at the same time. So your death is predetermined. It's how you die.
Yeah, maybe I missed that bit. Yeah,
because I remember a bit. It was right at the beginning when he was going for a sleep when they were waiting in the hall. They were all getting ready, and he goes for sleep. He says, "You're going for sleep now," and that's when they go on about fear. Why let fear rule you? You can hide in a hole, but you're predetermined to die when you're due to die. Hiding in a hole will not save you. You'll die the same. So you might as well stand on your feet and die the way you want to. Don't let fear rule you.
Yeah. True, fair point.
And I would say that this is something that the society today probably needs a lot more, because that's a healthy dose dealing with mental insecurity, if we put it that way. I wouldn't say it's like a mental disorder, it's mental insecurity, because people are so scared about so many things today because they have a screen in front of them. They actually do not look up. Every time I have a smoke break on my balcony, I have a big main road that I overlook. I'm 4 floors up, so I get a big overview. I see so many people just walking by, just staring at their phone, and I'm looking up at the sky, and I see red kites, I see ravens, I see pigeons, seagulls.
And you're going, fire!
Yes, exactly. But that's just a bubble for them. It's them and the smartphone. They don't even look where they're going. And I have multiple crosswalks that I see, and people just walking out straight and not even looking left, right, like you should do.
Yeah.
Just walk. and it's kind of
What they
scary.
should do is motorists should no longer be held responsible if somebody steps out in front of them. And that's why, because people have been told the motorist is responsible for stopping if you step out in the road. Sorry, if there's a car coming along the road at 30 mile an hour and you decide to walk in front of it, it's not his fault. It's yours.
Yeah.
That's the way I would look at it. Sorry, don't put the blame on the motorist. He's going to feel bad enough as it is, having to get his car repaired.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, having to clear out all the mess and junk in the engine.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the UK law changed about 6 weeks ago or something. So the smaller an item is, the less responsibility they have. Basically putting the pedestrian at the literally no blame zone.
Well, it's like that you see a while ago they came out with these things. You see, I don't know if they actually put all the calls to put padding around lampposts and
there was.
into them. My answer was no, don't put padding. Put barbed wire. Put spikes. That'll make people.
I think I've seen this in Mr. Bean in the 1980s, like a sketch where he's waving at someone. He's walking across. He's waving at someone across the road, and then he just falls down the stairs.
It's not the 9 o'clock news where Rowan.
It's not in 9 o'clock news. It's Rowan Atkinson going.
He's Rowan Atkinson.
Walks right into the pole.
He sees what presumably he sees a camera taking pictures of the people walking by, and he notices and he waves and looks at it. Yeah.
But it's the same as if you want a car to be safe, take out the airbags and the thing, and put a big spike on the steering wheel. Penny a penny, the driver will go slower.
Yeah.
Stephen Fry, that was his suggestion. You want people to go slow, put a spike in the steering wheel. You'll see a lot less dangerous drivers.
Yeah.
And it's true. Stephen Fry got it spot on.
Yeah.
People, because they've got safety bags, they've got roll cages, they've got bars on the side of, and they think, oh, I'll fasten the safety belt, I'll survive. Really?
That is actually quite hilarious, because I remember growing up, I had access to power tools like crazy. I had a steel power saw, chainsaw to mow down trees.
Mm-hmm.
I had strimmers, literally diesel-powered strimmers that could tear the thick branches out. No problem. Literally a ninja blade mounted at the end of it. You'd kill yourself.
Mm-hmm.
No warnings.
Down to my dad's
7-year-old me, it's like, Dad just went, you need to go out and clear that out.
It's the same
no questions, no nothing.
When I was growing up, when I was at school, my friends and I would all go down to my dad's work and my grandfather's work. It was a family business, but we would go down there. There would be power tools. We would get shown how to use the machines. A snakehead Jenny, it was called, right? It's a big machine with a big long snakehead and a spinning disc at the end, and you had to control it. And if you did it wrong, it would go boom. And we're like 10, 11. Not only family, it's friends would come and go show us how to do it. You get big scars down there and stuff like that. But it was a case of you got you shown how to use it. If you want to go in, here's a bit of marble, and you want to go in there and polish it so you can do stuff. Here, we showed you how to use the machine. It was literally that. We were cutting marble. We had the big grinding saws and everything. We could cut steps and stuff like that. And that's what we would do. We would get the machine when they weren't using it. They were having a break. We'd be cutting things to pieces. Yeah. But it was a case of we were shown how to use them, and we were told they're dangerous as hell. You want to use them.
It's dangerous.
Count your fingers after you're gone.
Yep.
But we did that.
Now imagine placing the health and security that we have today on Vikings. We're literally talking Vikings ready to go to the battlefield. We're talking like the big Dane battles, the 1066 battle. It's like, oh, no. You have to do health and safety. It has to be safeguarded, and you have to wear a face. The Vikings were just kind of like, get out of here.
You have to wear goggles.
Uh-huh.
Just give it
another 10 years, and you can just imagine them. Right, this is a gun. That's the bad end. But what we're going to do is we're going to stop it, so you can't do it, and we'll put a big sponge on it. There you go. There's your gun.
What was it? There was a thing, I'm sure, a little while ago now about criticising. I don't know where. Something about criticising. I don't know if it's the British Army, the American Army, or what.
It's the American Army.
About health and safety.
Yeah.
So I'm not, because some of that, and there was something similar for the US Navy recently as well. I think. Hold on a second. Health and safety
Navy is actually
your
safe spaces for pronouns.
Yeah, your job is to go out and put yourself.
Yeah. So people who are going out there taking warships with missiles and bullets could be flying at them, and they're getting safe spaces because somebody might call them a bad word.
Yeah.
And it's a case of, yeah, you're in the wrong business. Somebody's going to shoot at you, and you're worried that somebody's going to say, "Hey, you." Yeah, it's nuts, but it's the same again. It's just nuts. But the good thing is, this is a movie. When was it done? 99. Done long enough ago that the women in the place, you had the one who, the brainy one, she knew where things were, the king's daughter.
Yeah.
Was it Queen? It wasn't his daughter, it was his wife.
Yeah.
I thought initially it was his daughter, but it was his wife. She was the one who knew the girl, and she would take them to meet the old woman, but she's also the one that could tell them what was happening round about. But she wasn't the only reason all the women were with the men is because there were so few of them, and they were all going to get killed. And what did she do when they were at the final battle? Said to the girl, "Here's a dagger. Don't let them get taken."
Yeah.
Handed the main responsibility, because none of the men would have done it, because it would have been seen as dishonourable to kill children. But the women did a hard job, because if they come down here, they'll get ripped to shreds. Do it quickly. And it's stuff like that. Whereas you did see the women on the battlefield, but they were on the battlefield throwing water over the flames and carrying arrows and stuff like that. But they were only expected to, maybe because there was so few of them, but they weren't expected to be standing in the front line chopping away. They were basically there as support, but they were still on the battlefield. You didn't see somebody turn around saying, "Right, where's my sword? Get out of my way."
I've just noticed something which could explain why we are missing someone today. I've just, having read how you actually spell what the baddies were called, and I shall put it in chat. Just to, The clan of the bear were called the Wendell.
The Wendell.
Yes. Explains why Wen's missing, doesn't it?
Yes.
American.
There's also the members of the Wendigo.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah, very, very close to Wendigo. But first, on a second. So the study of the Wendell, would you get a degree in Wendology?
I think so.
Sorry,
He's in the chat. You better watch.
She
was earlier on.
This is where she comes back and smacks me and says, "Yes, where did you think I got my name from?"
It's a very fair observation, I will say. But the Wendell was something scary. I can't recall exactly what it is, but the window Joe, whatever it's called. I only seen it from the Supernatural TV show.
Yeah, that's
which is literally the pilot episode.
Yeah, it's the Wendigo.
Wendigo, yes.
The Wendigo.
They are different because they are from different cultures.
Yeah.
Although you could say there is connectivity because the Vikings were actually the first one to discover America, not Columbus.
North America, that's basically Oak Island round about that India. But the thing is, the language. So what they're called in different places just may have changed over the thing, because if you've got the Wendigo and you've got Wendell, it could be a case of when people were actually translating it, remember, it's a case of we call them this. Well, we're known this as this in this country, so it's very similar. It's that type of thing. It's like you've got mountains in in Australia called mountains, but they've got an Aboriginal name. It's because somebody says, what are they called? They say mountains. It's that type of thing. So you've got there's that old thing about a kangaroo just means I don't know. So the word kangaroo means I don't know. But if somebody says, what's that big animal? I don't know. But the language is kangaroo.
Terry Pratchett came out with a comment on that, where you get things, places, places. What's that name? That's called Mount Your Finger, you fool. Is that Terry Pratchett?
Terry Pratchett's done it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was talking about certain places around the disc called.
Yeah.
Your
well,
finger.
I mean, there were places in England whose names basically mean sort of hill.
Yeah.
Where it's a hill in Gaelic, hill in Anglo-Saxon.
Yep.
And hill in another version of it in someone, so you some tore something hill means hill.
Yep.
Where it's exactly that, where the naming has literally come from that. And
because,
river,
but that's the thing. I've heard that. I don't know if these are actual ones. Like kangaroo means I don't know, but it's just one of those. Is it an urban legend that somebody says this is what kangaroo means, and it's called a kangaroo because they asked the original, "What's that called?" and they said kangaroo.
Yeah, could be.
But it could be. But it sounds thingy. But then again, they would have somebody translate it, so they would have turned around and says, "What did he say?" Well, he says he doesn't know. So But accordingly, there is places down that because somebody's asked and they just basically said what it was, and what it was is a mountain, a hill, a river,
mountain. Yes.
Yeah.
And it may just have been like the language barrier or something, and then it just stuck.
Yeah.
So like you say, a kangaroo doesn't really sound intuitive to it. I mean, I know a kangaroo is a vicious animal. It can literally knock you out like Mike Tyson. But I don't have the same, shall we say, fear of a kangaroo like I do of a lion or a tiger.
Like Mike Tyson, I would say he'd knock you out like a horse. Because contrary to popular beliefs, they kick you with your feet. They don't box you, whereas people automatically assume they box because there's always the pictures of the boxing kangaroo with boxing gloves on. They kick you, lean back in their tail and just go boom.
Yeah, that's the meme. But if you have an animal that can bounce on its hind legs and go, what is it, like 60 miles an hour or something? They're really fast. There is definitely a lot of muscle power. So if you get smacked by one of these feet, you're going to feel it. Your grandson is going to feel it.
Mm-hmm. If you have you wake up to find one.
Exactly.
But that's what I'm saying. It's can't even know where this side track came from.
Well,
it was Wendigo and we were going down that route. That's what it was.
Well, kangaroos did actually win a war against the Australians. There really was a Great Kangaroo War. There really was. It's called the Great Kangaroo War, and it was a Hey, sorry, what I think it's in Canada. But basically, what was the I think it was the Australians, because I don't think there's kangaroos in New Zealand. But what it was, basically they tried to hunt down the kangaroos.
Yeah.
And the kangaroos kept winning. Basically.
Yeah. By the time they actually started slaughtering them, they were breeding too quickly.
Yeah, but it was and they kept missing. You know, it's weird. I looked up. I remember years ago. Now I was listening to a live stream with Erick of Chaos, American streamer, and I mentioned it up there, and because I think I've seen probably a Lindy Beige video about it earlier that week or something recently.
Lindy Beige did some good stuff.
And I mentioned it, and it said they'd stream off on a tangent for about an hour when I looked it up, but, you know, because it's a real thing. It was called the Great Kangaroo War, and in which the Australian or the kangaroos won.
Kangaroos won. Lindy might have been shadow banned somehow, because I did subscribe to him a long time ago, but I have never seen the new video forever.
He did one recently, which I must admit didn't particularly interest me, because he was doing about singing and skiff music, I think. But yeah, he hasn't been much coming from recently at all.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah. I think it's Lindy Beige, because I think I've seen one of his. I've not watched it, but I have seen it when I was going through a load of stuff, because he used to do some great fun battle stuff.
Oh yeah,
weird stuff. So that sounds like one of his. What I was going to say, based on things like this, and obviously we're doing. If anybody wants to watch a great Norse-ish thing, the Almighty Johnstons.
Yeah, I still got to get watching them. I've got them.
I need to get around to that too.
That is fun. It's basically taking the Norse gods in a slightly different route, and it is a fun route. It is definitely something the Almighty Johnsons will need to do. Get a hold of one in the very first pilot episode just to have a look at it.
Okay.
But because I've got the box set, I love it. I've watched it multiple times. It's just fun. The goddesses and the gods are great. The Maori gods are hilariously great. So they are. You've got the Maori god, I can't remember his name, but the guy who is the god is called Jerome. And he's a young guy that all the other gods go, oh, every time he opens his mouth. Because he'll say things like, come into the house of Jerome. And they're all going, this is your mum's house.
No.
Yeah, I mean, he thinks he's cool because he's the leader of the Maori gods, and he'll say, come into the house of Jerome, and they'll say, this is your mum's house, and stuff like that. But this is part of mine. This part is my house. This part is my house, and stuff like that. It's just the Almighty Johnsons is good because they take the Norse gods and subsidiary gods, because they mention other ones, and they take them in a way that it doesn't take the piss out of any of the gods, but it uses them as a backdrop. So it's a I wouldn't say it's a comedy, but it's got humour in it, and they don't take the piss out of the gods.
I just managed to find it on Amazon Prime. I can watch it free with ads from Freevee. No. Essentially, it's on Amazon Prime. You can get at least season 1.
You should watch I always used to give episodes, seasons, TV shows 3 episodes. First one always introduces the characters. The second one introduces the situation, and the third one brings the characters and the situations together. So if they've not got it by episode 3, then it doesn't usually work. And initially, I went, nope, it's not for me. My friend
they're doing a very slow hero's arc when they do that, but the description right out of the bat, it's from 2011. 13
seasons, and it's got finished. 3 seasons.
Inside, each of the Johnsons brothers beats the heart of a Norse god, but they can't fulfill their destinies until brother Axel finds his soulmate.
Yep.
I don't recognize any of the starring names that
There's
Amazon is
only one guy who, when he was, I think it was season 2 or 3, he got a starring role as part of The Hobbit. So he went to the home country, back to Norway, to try and find certain things, and that is when he was filming on The Hobbit. But they would have him set up doing the bits for it, and then they would just have it. He would do a Zoom call type thing. So one of them was at one of the Hobbits. But it is fun, and that's the main thing. Because I couldn't get into it. After third episode, I thought, nah, it's not for me. My friend says, watch it until episode 5 when Thor comes into it. And I watched it as soon as I saw Thor. I thought, oh, and it just got better and better and better. And I'm glad I stuck with it, because initially I thought it's just not for me, because it was a wee bit too slow for me. But when Thor comes in,
you're telling me it's basically Breaking Bad, but it actually gets good?
No, because Breaking Bad was, everybody kept telling me that would get better and better and better. But at the end of it, I was glad they all got killed, and I wish they all got killed in the first episode. It was one a waste of time. Now, when somebody recommends something, if I watch the first couple of bits and I just don't like it, I'm not going back to it. But the Almighty Johnsons is what, because my friend has got very similar taste and stuff with me, and she says it was great, and I sat and watched it, and I loved it. It definitely better. Thor in this is a pig farmer, and Mjolnir is a claw hammer. So you can imagine, but it doesn't. It sounds zany. It sounds like a comedy, but it's not. It's got humor in it. It's got some dark humor in it, but it's just good entertainment, and it's a twist on the Norse mythology, and it works because of the way they've actually built it into the show. It's fun. So
there's, I mean, I never watched it, but American Gods was supposed to be quite good as well.
I watched the first couple of episodes and I couldn't get into that either.
No.
I will say the American Gods is on the darker side, but I like it. Don't love it, but I definitely like it. But we were talking about Thor when he comes in and being presented and everything. I always have a pet peeve against how today's societies considers Mjolnir, the hammer that Thor is wielding. It's not the big massive chunk like it is in Marvel. It's not a tree branch with like a hacking axe at the back of it and then a big like hammer on the front of it. It's a simple blacksmith's hammer. It's basically what if you do home renovations,
what we would call
putting nails into the wall. That's
a claw hammer. I thought it would be more of a mashy hammer, as in a heavy duty hammer, sort of twice as thick as a claw hammer.
No, it's not. Thor's hammer is a device to stop gold investing the planet where the Asgard moves the Norse to, and it's had to be reprogrammed because SG-1 buggered it up. I know what Thor's hammer is. I've watched Stargate.
I've seen it.
No. That is the
greatest of the Asgard fleet.
Colin, that is the greatest use of Thor, based on mythology, put into any modern storytelling. Yeah. I love Thor, and especially because I loved MacGyver growing up. Dean Anderson, fantastic with the dry, sarcastic humor constantly. He plays so well off of Thor. That is sheer genius. I absolutely love the, shall we say, the Valhallian. So I keep forgetting what they're called. Yes, Guardians. Yes. It's probably because because now I'm speaking English most of the time. It's like ass. It's like, can I say that on YouTube? And then it's Ass Guardian. It's like
Yeah.
you're
Yes,
guarding your
because
plot.
you're speaking English, not an American.
Yeah.
If you're speaking English,
Exactly.
if you're speaking English, there's an R in the word.
Arsgard. Ars.
No, there's
You're
an
an
R in
R.
the word for your backside.
Yeah, that's what it says. You're on Arsgard.
Yeah.
Well, I always call
That's
it the posterior, but
we call them pants. You're Arsgard.
Exactly.
oh, don't get me started on that, because it's called pants here, but it's called was it trousers or something?
No. We call them trousers. They call them pants. What we call pants is your underwear.
Exactly. And then you have the bum and the fanny.
Yes.
That
We had a bum bag. They had a fanny pack.
that really confused me. The first time I noticed that, I was reading probably the first probably the series of stories that effectively created space opera was Doc Smith's Lensman. And there's one bit in there where you get your hero he's on a planet which actually these days the woke would love, because I think it's Lorraine 9, where basically the human race there has evolved that the women do everything and the men are pretty much nothing more than animals for breeding. Literally, there's literally that much sexual dimorphism in them. But there's one bit where he's talking to them and he tells he's the guy in his ship to put down a needle beam, a laser beam, not close enough to singe her fanny. And I'm thinking, oh, that's a bit nasty. But of course, no, what he actually means is her backside, her butt.
Yeah. It's the same as a trunk. When you've got junk in your trunk. And the first time I heard trunk, I says, do they call their cars an elephant or something like that? Because I was a kid when I first heard put it in the trunk. If they got a big suitcase, no, that's the trunk is the boot of the car. Well, why don't they call it a boot? It was a case
I can't confirm this. I've seen a lot of people highlighting the word that here in the United Kingdom we would consider "see you next Tuesday." So CUNT.
Yeah.
Apparently here in UK is a very offensive word. But in Australia, it is a greeting word that they even use in adverts shown during daytime before the watershed.
I think it would have been maybe in the 70s and 80s. I think since globalization
I've not heard
No,
of
I've been told that apparently they don't care. Doesn't mean an offensive thing to them.
Possibly.
It is not offensive in Australia whatsoever.
Well, all it is. I mean, you're right. You know, all it is basically it's a dyslexic Viking king. Think about it.
Now that would be interesting.
Because I know how you spell that word. I remember how you spell that name properly, and you don't spell it with a K. You spell it with a C, I believe. And I know why he actually did try to hold the C back as well.
Well, that's his historical remnant, and it is something I struggled with 20 years ago when I came over to the UK.
Yeah.
The Scandinavian languages doesn't give a "see you next Tuesday" about V and W. There is a difference between whiskey and whiskey in the English language, but the spelling in the Scandinavian languages, they don't care if it's a V or a W. It's still pronounced exactly the same.
So I know German, which is the same language family, doesn't have a W. So you pronounce, which is why, for example, the German army is the Wehrmacht, not the Wehrmacht. And the F is a V is pronounced like an F, so it's not Vater, it's Vater. So I know there's that difference. It's Volta. It's not a Walther PPK; it's a Volta PPK. It's in German because there is no what. No, there is no what.
Oh, you look at the card they did designed for the certain army was the Volkswagen.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Volkswagen.
It's a Volkswagen. That's a good one because it's actually a Volkswagen because the V is an F and a W is a V.
A Volkswagen.
Folks, as in people.
Yep.
Which is why we have the word father, which is how you can tell English is a Germanic language because it's father, not pater. Because it came down through Germanic rather than language. But we're moving on to linguistics discussion here, which is always interesting for me, but perhaps not so much.
No, you're fairly spot on there. And if I remember correctly, from the little bit I did about the rune scripts, well, not rune scripts, well, whatever it's called about the Viking scribbles, is Vodin, as in close to Odin. Vodin, it's the word for father.
Oh, what is
but
it?
It has changed to become father-ish, but it's more papa or far.
How did when they were I presume supposedly speaking ancient Norse? How did that sound to you as a speaker of as a native speaker of a Nordic language? Jim, did that sound like they might have been speaking a medieval Norse language, or did it just sound like they were making things up?
There is a certain kind of thing because there is a lot of people speculating. I will give it that, but you can kind of quickly tell them apart. With you definitely know that someone just made it up because the languages was literally surrounded to the central mythology. So all around Valhalla, the Aegis, the Draugr, the Wolfgar, they had the same. Sadly, the Vikings had a very limited vocabulary. The average English person is supposed to know something like 12,000 words, whereas the Viking maybe only had like 2,500.
I would be surprised if the average British person has 1,200 words nowadays. But that's nowadays.
Yeah.
What I went to get is that. Got that sitting in my fridge. Do you know what that means, Jim? No. Anybody know what that means? Could be that way up. Any idea?
That's the Ohm. That's the Ohm signal, isn't it?
Well, say if you turn it 90 degrees that way, it becomes the other way, it becomes an anvil.
No, this is basically it's a Norse letter. Old Norse.
Yeah, I don't read the rune scripts. I wish I could, but I don't.
That is the rune for P.
Ah.
It's either that way or that way. I can't remember now. I've actually taken it off the fridge. It's that way. I'm sure it's the rune for P. Because when I was there, the guy had, and I was asking him what they meant, and he says some of them mean words, some of them just mean letters. And I says, well, if you got one, it's P or J, and that was the only one he had at P. Or else I would have got both of them, but he didn't have both of them. Because you get ones that actually could mean the full name. Some mean it's the same idea as like Chinese. So the rune letters are some are letters, some are numbers, some are words. It's a similar idea, and it's made up of and stuff like that. So going to be a bit nuts.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll go back to the movie. Back to the movie, and we'll look at what was your favourite part of it, what was your least favourite part of it, and what would you give it out of 10? Who wants to go first?
I'll let Jim go first because I hate doing this bit.
Jim? Are you going to be right back? I'll do it then. Seeing as Jim's a bit busy.
Yeah.
Right. Well, my favourite part, I must admit, was the Norseman, his friend, kept calling him little brother because it kept annoying him. initially, and he would
You're
make
just
jokes. on-
stealing
so I
my
liked him.
material now.
I liked him. He was basically good, and he was the one at the end that says, "Well, we know if they don't follow us, it's too deep to swim, or it's too far to swim." So his character, I liked throughout the whole movie. I thought his character was really good all the way through, and he was the one that obviously it fought the big redhead and stuff like that. But it wasn't because of the fight; it was just his character throughout from the beginning right through. The part I disliked the most was the learning of the language. Him just sitting there, and then the occasional word would come in, as if that's how you can learn the language, by sitting listening. You don't know what they're saying, so does it make any difference if you sit and listen?
You can learn it.
You can listen for a month. If you don't know any context of what they're saying, you won't pick up words.
You can learn that way if you are under about 12 years old, because you will pick it up, as you say, but you'll pick it up in context. If he'd done that and then started talking, if he'd done it, I don't know, he would do that and start talking back to them and trying, then yes.
Gradually, as if he would do it gradually, try
More
and
than
say
he suddenly comes back to him and says what it was he said to them.
He says basically, where did you learn our language? He says by listening. That was the part I disliked about it. It's just because you could sit and listen all you want, unless you've got context to the words they're saying.
Yeah.
But this is, I agree with you, and you've stolen two of my peeves as well. But it's the time between where it is.
Yes, because
if I didn't speak a word of English and I sat down for months just listening to the two of you discussing things, I would be able to start picking out things like, yes, maybe, PJ maybe is my name. I am Colin. I would be able to start picking them out slowly. But like Colin said, your brain is extremely elastic before like the age of, was it 15 or something? You have the capability to learn so many languages before you're 15 years old. It's just crazy. You just sponge it in.
See, me, I would have preferred this as that was happening. He would say things and they would have a laugh and a joke because he said the wrong word.
Yeah.
And you would see he's gradually learning, basically trying to pick it up, saying things, not getting it quite right. It's the same like type you would do when you're learning. Kelleritio. What's that mean? Does it not mean what time is it? No, that's just the very, very short phonetic way of doing it, but it's not actually what the words mean, because the way I say it is not actually the proper way of saying it. But
imagine someone that had learned English at school. They're, say, 19 years old. They come over to England for the first time ever and go to East London, and they encounter Cockney. There is no way they would ever decode that.
It reminds me of an old joke, a right old joke. Guy, his plane crash lands in the middle of nowhere, right? And there's a lot of indigenous people around, and he's talking to them, and they just keep staring at him. And then they drag him, and there's this wee boy, and he says to the boy, "Can you help me?" And the boy goes, "Yes, no problem." And he goes, "Well, I need somehow to get them." He says, "No problem, we'll get you there. The guys will get you food, don't worry." And he goes, "Pardon me, why do you keep whistling in the middle?" He says, "Oh, sorry, I learned English by shortwave, and it kept losing the signal."
So what you're
an old joke, because a lot of people don't even know what a shortwave is. But that's what it reminds me. That scene reminded me of that, because you would expect him to. I would have preferred a montage of him saying things.
I was going to say, so what?
Yeah. So that's the part.
Sorry. Yeah. And Rebecca references to Team America again. Everybody who needs a montage.
Yes. But that montage was okay because at least gave you an understanding how he could speak. Because you didn't
I agree.
That part. It was okay, but I wish the montage was a wee bit with him trying to say things and people were laughing at him because he was and him saying the wrong words. Like, can I have some vinegar? Or you mean water? That type of thing. So he's saying the wrong word. Even if it was a bit off here and there, but it was just something to show that he was learning the language and he would make mistakes. But by the time they got to where they needed to be, they could. But the fact is, he just said, "My wife, you son of a dog," and all that. It's a case of, oh, you're not bad with your language. You actually never said it before. You've just been listening, but you managed to actually say it. Easy. Yeah. It was almost as bad as when the king says, "You can write words, you can write sounds," and he showed him and he told him what it meant. Then the king the king says, "What does this mean?" Your sound's off. Your sound's off. Jim.
So sorry.
You bet.
I do have a big red button here saying it's off, but I keep missing it. But it isn't write sounds. You can draw sounds.
Draw sounds. That's what it was. You can draw sounds. And then the king stops at the beach and goes, "What does this mean?" And he reads it and then just corrects one wee bit of it. I'm thinking, not bad for seeing it once. You know what I mean? The king did not too bad for seeing it once. Actually wrote it down. He only needed to put a wee.
But I should save it for my part, but it's literally not one scene. It's all the scenes.
Yes, the lead up.
But all of them are intelligent people. They're not barbarians. They're not brutal. They're not. They are clever. They know that this might actually save my life in the future. That this might have an impact. That this might be something I need to know.
See, I understood where they were going with it. So that montage part with them learning the language, but it annoyed me that it's just he sat back and then the first thing he said was a speech, and you're sitting there thinking, I understood why they did it in the movie, but considering that's the part I thought was the worst part of it, I don't think that's bad. And out of 10, I would still give this I would say 7. It's entertaining enough that you can watch it without having to worry about all those bits and pieces because they're just there to further the story. They don't distract. The only one that distracted was the king's son, but that seemed to be a story. It just sort of dropped somehow.
Did anyone? Is he just me, or did anyone else think he came across as a bit camp?
He appeared, said something snidey. The guy killed the guy, and then he disappeared again. And you're sitting there thinking,
"It's just there was something."
What happened?
There was something about his appearance and that made me think he was going to be a gay character. Now, it might just be my sense. I don't know.
I think it's just it was the bowl cut. I thought it was actually going to be. The fact is, they'd been there and he wasn't there, and it was the second after the main battle. He's there, and he's slagging them all off because never killed any of the people and stuff like that, and didn't find any of the bodies and all that. And you're sitting there thinking, who is that character? Then you find it's the king's son, and then there's the bit with the killing off of the big tall guy, and then he disappears again. You're sitting there thinking he was in for those 2 scenes. For why? He didn't really add or take away from it. He just
you could have completely removed that character, and nothing would have made any difference.
Exactly, but still think it's a good enough movie. It's still enjoyable. There's wee bits here and there you could go, but it doesn't actually distract from the story it's telling. It distracts from some of the scenes, like the armor out of place, or him doing the speech, or that guy appearing and disappearing, and all those bear cults with bear outfits, and there must have been no bears in that whole continent after them being there, and the training the horses on the mountainside inside caves, stuff like that. But you could just ignore them because it's to further the story. that was okay. But I still think a 7 is entertaining enough to be enjoyable.
So it's definitely being put on your. I'll watch this one again sometime.
I
in
would
the
watch
future.
it again, yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
So I take it's my turn.
Yeah, go on. Why not? You're the expert.
Well, expert. So clearly this film is completely fictionalized. We have all the faults of armor, the way the horses functions and everything. There is no way, despite that cavalry was a major part between like early 1100s to at least 1875, that they had that kind of discipline, because
I would have said even
horses
later
and
because you had the Charger of the Light Brigade was 1890. Was it 1890s? The
well,
balaclava and stuff
if you're
like that.
going to go that hardcore, the
No, but
Polish,
that's what I'm saying. So they were still using horses for
Polish
that long.
people were defending the Second World War invasion. They had cavalry-mounted units versus German tanks in
But
1945.
even the Germans had more horses than the Allies.
Well, 45 is the wrong year because that's when it ended. But whenever
But
they got invaded, it's they
Polish
used
cavalry
that
was-
and they used it effectively.
25th of October 1854, Charge of the Light Brigade.
Was it that far back? I
Yep.
thought it was a lot later.
No, it was in the Crimean War.
I'm thinking.
Oh, wow, that's actually. I thought that was after the American Civil War, but
No.
either way,
That's what I thought as well. So obviously, just bow
but
to
it is so much. Shall we say? If you had a passing grade at history at school, you would just go, it's like wrong uniform, wrong century, wrong millennium, even going to that extreme. But overall, I understand that the logistical issues, I'm guessing the turbans, plural, that Antonio Banderas had to like take on and off and on and off and on. I think the wardrobe department just like super glued it because they were just getting tired of having to wrap his head every time he wanted to take a break from a scene. So all of that, the biggest flaw with it, this film, is that it is a Hollywood production. It doesn't allow enough time from everything from language learning, which I would suspect would take at least 6 months. Now he meets them up at what would be the big sea that is just south of Finland, connecting with Russia, Rus, back in the day. And they're gathering there for the council, and the crone comes out and saying, oh, the 13th warrior has to be none of our clan. So therefore it has to be him. They would immediately jump on a boat and go across. And even back in the day, if you were a crappy sailor, it would take you 3 days to cross that. And in this time, he's supposedly learning the language. So I dislike the fact that he didn't give that a montage. I have no issues with the fact that he turns a straight metal forged blade into a curved blade, which is physically impossible, but I get the gist. So that's more forgivable for me than the fact that he learns the language in 3 days. The favorite part is the prayer. Lo, there do I see my father. Lo, there do I see my mother. Lo, there do I see my brothers and my sisters. That whole spiel, because at that moment in time, the film has built up to this crescendo to have something like that. And it does have a great moment within it. It doesn't do I'm super badass, and it's a mic drop. It just goes quiet, but you see the army just rolling in on them. You know that there's hell to pay in the next minute or so. But all of them have made their peace with Thor, with Allah, with Odin, with Frey, all of that.
I liked the bit they didn't actually disparage any of the religions.
Yeah.
Which is
Even
what
at the
the
end,
Vikings
it says-
actually did.
At the end, what they did was, when he's on the boat saying cheerio, it's a case of, I know you've only got one God, but we've got many, so I've asked them all to make sure you get a safe journey home.
Exactly.
And he asked, and
then he asked
Don't be
Allah
offended
to
by
protect Hangman and that type of thing. So to me, that was quite a good way. You imagine that being done now, certain religions would actually be shown as backwards. And it doesn't matter if it's watching El Cid and they're projecting the Christians above the Islamic, or the Islamic against the Nordic ones. It's the good thing is they basically didn't. It finished off with the two of them.
Exactly. It was never a versus mode. So
exactly.
when you said the pray to all of them, and he turns up to the sky and going, "Are you listening?" It's essentially, it's like the prayer has gone up there. It's like you pray to all of them. That includes you.
Yeah.
It's like, are you listening? Very clever
it was
play.
Quite good with that. It actually didn't disparage. Considering the type of movie it was, they could have got away with doing it because it's fantasy.
Well, if you think, I mean, in fact, despite what the modern generation may think, that respecting other cultures is not a new thing at all. You mentioned El Cid.
Mm-hmm.
El Cid.
Yep.
Some of the most heroic characters are the bloody bad guy. The bad guy are the Moors. Right? They make massive points of that. El Cid, a reason to lecture Sophie Loren again. No, but it does. And I mean, the one that I mentioned, Zulu.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Zulu.
Zulu actually shows the two of them respecting each other.
Exactly. That shows it. That shows the height of the British Empire.
Mm-hmm.
The fuzzy wuzzies, as Corporal Jones would put them. But, and as you say, they're respecting each other, and you get the you know, that sounds a little bit more like Clive Dunn than it did when you were showing on Saturday.
It's only because I think I got it. I hadn't right at the mic at the speaker properly. But
Definitely change your catchphrases, but it didn't sound that much like Clive Dunn when you had it before, I think.
It's definitely Clive Dunn.
Yeah, but
my dog still thinks it's his toy, so every time I bring it up, he just tries to actually jump for it.
You need to get one for him as well, then. I thought that the
there's the miscreant.
Go
ahead, Colin.
Sorry, did I go again? I did like the way that when I actually checked back the bits and pieces that were actually from Ibn Fahdlan's writings, such as, like I said, the bit with the girl, which of course brought it back. You made me think when you were saying about that when they're doing it at the end, it brought it back around again, because the first time we hear that prayer is the girl who's about to be sacrificed. And
yes.
it is a sacrifice. So it points the fact that what they're going out there to do, that he is effectively sacrificing him. He knows he's going to a willing sacrifice. But I did like, I said I'm like those bits. When I discovered, so that Ibn Fahdlan actually did say that, and he did. These things they take from him. So they've done their history, they've done their background. But I mean, the bits I particularly didn't like, for me, of course, were, well, as you'd expect, were mainly the whole, it's just the history bits. The bits where you get armor from all over the times. Looks like they've been through. Looks like they've spent 6 months on the TARDIS. you know.
Don't mention the TARDIS, because when he was wearing a Nordic one, he had horns, Tom Baker.
I know. Yes, I remember that.
I know.
I don't know, Roman. I just seen your comments. I don't think PJ's puppies are part of the bear clan.
Are you bear? You're just a little bear behind.
Actually, no, I've just made. Thank you. I've just actually found that connection is finally actually clicked in my brain. What a lot of that does also look like. Of Clan of the Cave Bear. If you've ever seen the movie, the Daryl Hannah movie of Clan of the Cave Bear, which of course is set in the Neolithic period, a lot of that looks very similar to the Bear Clan in their cave.
I actually think I might have seen that, just based on what you just said there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of similarities in visual wise. In fact, because I kept coming up thinking that Cave Bear, you know, it's Clan of the Cave Bear. I've only ever read the first one. I must admit, I wouldn't mind going back.
It's got Daryl Hannah in it.
Yeah. I'm just didn't. Yeah,
I've definitely seen this one. I have definitely seen this one. I just don't.
I mean, it's just. Well, if I remember right, I think because it's the first of the Earth's Children, Jean M. Oil. But I think if I remember right, I think the basic story is she gets kicked out of her clan for some reason, and then she eventually gets adopted by into another clan. So back, you're talking Neolithic Stone Age. But it's just.
I will say though, the front cover that IMDb is presenting, it's visually stunning, but I doubt that's what the original cover was, looking at the graphics they had available at the time. Yes, she did look a little bit like that, but I definitely have a feeling they've upgraded this to the latest, most modern version. Might be coming a 4K Blu-ray edition sometime soon. But yeah, visually,
my copy of it's so old it predates the film, back when the film first came out.
So you're telling me you're having a Raspberry VHS at home or a Beta?
No. My copy of the book. I've got the.
That's
the
what I'm saying. Your book is literally Betamax.
Yeah, probably. No, it's this weird old thing that people these days might not have heard about. It's called print. You know, youngsters might not have heard of it these days.
Oh, I wish I had the preset ready for it, because there's a scene
it's
I
an
love in
iPad
Hackers
that
where he's going. He's getting delivered by the chief of FBI a paper document, and he's just going, it's like, ooh, hard copy. It's like literally just want to chuck it away because it's not on a computer, because he's a hacker.
Mm-hmm.
But no,
Jim, you're saying about that, the Clan of the Bear, Cave Bear, that cover, that's the makeup she had on the movie.
Yeah,
yes, I know that. That's literally why I recognize it. But if you look at the cover, that is definitely not when the film was made in 1986. This is definitely 2010 plus, at least, when this cover was made.
I think it's actually just a photo of her done up.
Yes, that's what I mean. It's 2010 technology put to the photo of what she looked like in 86. That's what I'm saying. It's too crisp, it's too clear, it's too sharp.
But see, remember, she would have actually been done that as part of the publicity, so that wouldn't be in the movie. That was how she would have been photographed like that for the poster.
Sorry, a 1986 camera versus a 2010 camera. I'm not buying it. That is too sharp for an 86 film.
We'll discuss that next time if we watch that one.
Well, we might put it on the list, and then Colin can actually lead a Wednesday stream and saying, "Hey, this is the one I wanted to watch."
Yeah, I'll be on with the father if he's broadcasting on Friday. So I'll see you then.
Thanks
Roman.
for joining us, Roman.
Yeah, we're going to be finishing soon. As soon as these two guys give us their numbers out of 10.
I'm slightly biased, obviously. Is it the greatest film I've ever seen? No, it isn't. Does it have that entertainment value that I will absolutely go back to it? Absolutely, yes. Does it have the feel and the visual style, disregarding errors and costumes and wardrobes and armors from centuries, like 500 years in the future? If we forgive them, it's a 9.75 for me. But I do have to take the production quality into it a little bit, so I will give it 8.5. You could have been a 9.75 if you have tried to reduce the wardrobe, the language, the iteration of it, and the time when it was supposed to take place. You would have literally hit spot on, but 8.5.
That's still good. What about you, Colin?
I don't know. 7. Maybe. I mean, it's certainly very entertaining, and it's the sort of thing that hopefully might inspire people to actually look into the real history of it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is always what we, what can sometimes happen when that sort of thing is people go, oh no, that can't have been right. Oh wow, it was.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. That's what a good movie should do. Bad movies like Braveheart still get people to actually look at it properly.
Yeah.
Oh, don't get me started about the Braveheart statues that are starting to pop up.
God, I know the Mel Gibson statues. Tell us about it. I've seen them. They are up here. Stirling Castle used to be nice. They've got a statue there now since the movie, and it effectively looks like the movie version of William Wallace. Mm-hmm. William, the Braveheart, if you look at it as a entertainment movie, it's an okay entertainment movie because it's got all the right points, the battles, the fight, the love story. I can understand all that. Because it's one of the first movies I've walked out of where I've seen people cheer at the end because it got the feeling of Scotland.
Well, the one that's hung on and quartered.
Yeah, but it got the feeling, basically, the dislike of the English establishment.
Yeah.
It did. It was at the time before the referendum and all that, and and that changed. But
you mean the one you're going to have another one of next year?
And she's going to get slapped anyway. But the thing is, it's like the other Mel Gibson one, The Patriot. Same idea. It was anti-English.
Exactly.
On the American side. It's that type of thing. No historically accurate in any way. However, as if you want to watch the battles and the fight, and it's an okay story. And that's what I suppose, if he's looking to use them to get an okay story, and damn the bits and pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if I'm honest, if I try to be honest, Braveheart is probably okay. Actually, it's not bad as a historical drama.
See, Friday,
as a historical film, it is crap as a history.
Yes.
Movie. Because if it's historical, it's a film set in the 12th century, in the 13th century, and it's 1200s, isn't it, Edward the First?
Mm-hmm. It hits spot on, but I wanted just to give a quick jab because you mentioned The Patriot. I loved it because you actually got to see, for once in a film, military action in a battlefield. And one of the first battle that happens in the Patriot is the cavalry charge coming in and absolutely demolishing the flank of the infantry units marching forward. They're literally obliterating them.
If I was looking at a movie like that, I would have said Gettysburg.
I must admit, I've never seen the Patriot or
Don't get me started on Gettysburg. That is an awesome film with so many great actors.
Gettysburg was filmed in Gettysburg, and majority of the
background actors are reenactors. Yeah, I know.
Were reenactors. So basically, they've all got their own equipment,
yeah.
And they knew what they were doing, so they didn't need to get a lot of guidance. Gettysburg is a fantastic movie. You should watch it. It is literally good for that genre, for that time frame. So I would definitely recommend it.
I'll just give the warning. Gettysburg is about 4 hours and 25 minutes long.
Can't put it on. Braveheart is entertaining. It is also a joke with the history. And Wallace, yes, he gives the speech about being a giant. And then he actually next time I'm up there, I'll take a picture so you can see it. It's absolutely.
Actually, if I think you should sit down and watch Braveheart if you have to, and then watch the 3-minute William Wallace song from Horrible Histories, and work out which one is going to tell you more about the actual history. I'll give you a hint. It's the musical.
Yeah, I've seen the musical.
You're not actually sure when William Wallace. Yeah,
my friend keeps on telling me to watch Horrible Histories because her daughter loves it, and she keeps on asking me if I've seen it yet.
The first, I would say, with Horrible Histories, the first, I think it's 5 seasons where they've got the same basic troupe all the way through, and where it is a sketch show. Those guys, they're the same people that went on and did. If you've seen Ghosts. The same troupe, the same 5-6 guys went on and did Ghosts and other things. After that, they I think they broke up, and then they came back, and a lot of them seemed to be they then seemed to go rather like the books, and the books are topic subject specific or area specific, and that seemed to go downhill a lot then, I think. But the first
accordingly went down to the point where they had that comedian. And it was all about the British Empire and how bad it was, and basically slagging it.
The thing is, that sketch was from the original series, and actually, it's very interesting. It's an interesting. If you take it the way it originally came out, it's an interesting sketch because it points out all these things. And so it points out that these things actually came from parts of the British Empire, etc. It's just when you get idiots like him turn around and decide to try to use it to slam the empire. But I think in 5 years there turned out to be one inaccurate fact, which they then corrected.
Yeah.
Because they said, they wanted it, and whatever Terry Deary's political affiliation, which apparently may have been quite progressive, maybe quite lefty. Whatever they say, the series back then, when the BBC actually intended to educate kids, and they made every effort to be as accurate, that the fact was accurate as possible, introduced in an entertaining, fun way. But if you see in Horrible Histories, you can be as certain as anything accurate.
Yeah.
Unlike most of BBC's product these days.
Well, that's true. Very true. Turned into a mountain by Zeus and lent him his name to the area.
Ah.
Yeah. So we got you now.
Yeah.
What's your score? Rating?
I already scored it.
Dislikes, likes.
I scored at 7.
I said 8.5.
So
There's
2 sevens
few
and an
things.
8.5.
Yeah.
Still good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a film for the background. It's
It's
definitely a film
definitely
worth
one
watching.
for if you're just looking for a bit of entertainment, good, just fun. It's definitely one to watch. I would definitely recommend having a go at it if you've not seen the 13th Warrior. So
Yeah, and I'll add it to you. If you're on, shall we say, a Viking binge of films you haven't watched, The Outlander is well made. And yes, I've seen you chat. You've been on fire as always. There's been some really good recommendations about other Viking films, and I'll recommend most of them as well. There are bad Viking films out there. There are some really bad ones, but it comes down to taste. I like it for, shall we say, background pride if it's a well-made one, but if it's a bad one, I would just go, it's like, no, that's a Californian film. It had nothing to do with us.
I'm sorry. I said I've referred. I still love the Kirk Douglas.
Tony
Curtis from
Curtis,
Vikings.
The Vikings. I've got that.
Janet Leigh. So right.
I think that's a fun movie as well.
That's a great. Yeah.
Back in the day, it was never meant to be accurate. It is just entertainment.
Yeah.
I've got that one. I love it. I do enjoy it. I must admit. It is just same again. They've only designed it to be entertaining. And I suppose it's the same idea. If we were looking at that, you go, wrong armor, wrong this, wrong that. But it's still entertainment. And that's the good thing about most of these movies. If they've got all these things.
Be fair. If your greatest gripe is that's an armor from the wrong century, that's the biggest issue you have. And you said, I finished the film.
For a movie, if a movie says it's historical, you can go, no, and say that is rubbish. But if they're saying it's entertainment based on this historical event or this historical time, then fun. It doesn't matter if everything's right or wrong. If they're using the historical location as a big part of the story, then yes, it's an issue. But if they're not, then it's not a major issue. And that's the same idea, not historically accurate, but very entertaining. And a good movie doesn't need to be historically accurate if it's trying to tell a good story. If it's trying to tell a historically accurate story, then don't change the facts. That's different. But this is never meant to be that way. But, ladies and gents, there's that one, The Outlander, being mentioned again. That's the one you were talking about, Jim, yeah?
Yeah, The Outlander with Michael Caviezel, or whatever his name is.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to put that in my list. See
amazing.
The Viking version of Cowboys versus Aliens.
No,
which was
not. Absolutely not.
It's more. It'd be more the Viking version of Enemy Mine, because the two of them are actually end up on a planet and have to actually work together.
Yeah, closer to that, closer to Enemy Mine, and that was
Thingy Goddard Jr. and
Louis Gossett Jr.
What's his called? Quaid.
Dennis Quaid. Yeah.
Yes.
I always confuse. I must admit, I in my head, even though I've read and seen both films, I quite often get that confused. Enemy Mine confused with the Frederick Brown novel Arena, which is what the Gorn episode of Star Trek was based on.
Aye.
And they're completely different, because I think Enemy Mine, was Barry Longyear. Arena was Frederick Brown and was a short story.
Yeah. But
I just double checked Gettysburg. The version that is available on Amazon Prime is 4 hours and 14 minutes long.
I'm trying to check. I want to check, see if I've got Gettysburg. I just finished my database, so
if guys, if you're actually interested in people taking good critical looks at historical movies, I cannot recommend Nick Hodges' History Buffs channel highly enough. He does
History Buffs is superb. Everything in History Buffs. His Waterloo one was fucking amazing.
He gets 10 seconds into Braveheart and then he starts swearing and breaks down.
Yeah,
and he shouts at the screen.
He's one about Waterloo, which I've got Waterloo.
Yeah.
That is a superb, definitely History Buffs.
I think
it's not one that he actually puts something out every week.
No,
he takes time to actually do it properly.
Yeah, because he did. I think he's got a 2-parter on.
He's
Midway.
got he has got Midway. He's got a 2-parter on even some of the other less historical movies, but more gangster movies. He's got the one about
I was going to say I can't think what. And he did another one about a TV series, didn't he? I think he did one recently. The last one he did that I remember noticing, and I'm subscribed, so I should get notifications. He did one about the TV series based on the hunt for Pablo Escobar.
Yeah, see if I can find the link to. Let's see. To the
he's deft. As I say, I mean, if he does exactly that. I mean, as I say, he does far too few videos.
Yeah, I'll try and get this, then we'll finish up.
Yeah.
Right. So I've got History Buff. He's actually in one. I'm subscribed, so I'm just going through my subscriptions.
I'll say yeah, me too. I'm subbed.
History Buff, there it's there. And History Buffs London. It's the full title for it. And here it's here. That's for the History Buffs channel. History Buffs London.
Oh, I didn't remember the London bit on there.
I didn't know it was there, but it's just that's his full name of the channel. His link. It's History Buffs London. Definitely give that a go because he does some. He basically goes into the movie, the accuracies, the inaccuracies, understanding why they changed things and why the hell they did as well. He is really good.
And yes, he does do Zulu.
he takes his time to build his thingy, so they're no every week or whatever. There could be months between, but he does a deep dive into it. He's basically got the information on it, and his avatar's a cartoon character. So he has to do all that as part of his video as well. But it's definitely good. Anyway, ladies and jelly spoons, thank you very much for Jim. A good recommendation, a good entertainment, and that's what we always want: good, fun entertainment. So thank you for that, Colin, Jim. Thank you for joining us, and ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Vikings and Arabs. Thank you very much for joining us, and remember, we're back in Saturday for Let's Talk Geeky. And until then, we'll see you soon. And remember, I'm not old, I'm classic. PJ may